and welcome back to Salmon's Pizzeria for another episode of The View from the Stands. This time, it's our European hopefuls, Kilmarnock. So I am joined by our in-house Kilmarnock man, Paul. Paul, how are you?
I'm good, Alex. Yourself?
I am good, thank you. And Craig from the Terrace. I'm delighted to be joined by Craig. How are you?
I'm absolutely great. Yeah, brilliant. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm really good. So yeah, we'll just get into it, and we'll start where it matters most then, Craig, and that's been Europe and kind of European hopes for Kilmarnock so far. It starts off with a maybe lackluster result against Cercle Bruges and end up dropping into the Conference League, but a win over the two legs against Tromsø, and now sets up a tasty tie with Denmark, Denmark, one of the top clubs in Denmark, Copenhagen, and so big game coming up. How hopeful are you for that one?
I mean, realistically, we're not exactly strong favourites to go through in this one. I think it was we've got a better chance than I think some people are giving us based on what they've done so far in Europe. But they got to the last 16 of the Champions League. Like literally, they were playing in that in January. I think they beat Man United in the group stage of that. So they are clearly got something about them. Even if they kind of have stumbled a wee bit through Europe, they only got through the last round on penalties against Bani Kostrava. Obviously, we'd have fancied our chances a lot more against them, but we'll give it a go. I'm hopeful that we will have some result that will make the game at Rugby Park interesting. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, and a strong performance against Tromsø in the last round. A 2-2 draw at home, and Derek McInnes summed it up pretty well by saying, they thought they'd already won it. So to go away to Tromsø and away to Norway and take the win and be still within a fighting chance of European group stage football must be a real strong point, Craig.
Yeah, that was a brilliant kind of result the other night. I thought from the first leg, like we took the lead and then we sat off a bit and we were clearly just trying to hold on, and then it kind of all fell apart a bit, but we nicked the goal right at the end, which was massive. And I thought on that night that Tromsø weren't really that great, and I said when we were coming out that I thought we would probably win the next week, and not many people agreed, but we managed to sneak through, and it was a kind of backs to the wall performance last week. Not like they didn't exactly create tons of chances, but they did miss one good chance at the end. But you need to ride your luck. It's the third time in Kelly's history we've won a European game outside the UK, so it's a rare thing to do. And I think that the other two were in, we'll meet both in Belgium in the 1967, so a long time ago. So it kind of shows the scale of the achievement, and to give ourselves this chance of I know it was big money for Hearts, it was big money for Aberdeen when they got into the European group stages. But those are much bigger clubs and much bigger revenues anyway. This tie is probably like, I've been trying to find a word that's different from life changing, because it's obviously not a life, but it's like club changing money that could be on offer if we can get through this tie. And yeah, we might be outsiders, but everything has to go into trying to get through this game, because it probably makes a difference in setting up the club for the next several years. We're trying to, all the development work that's been done at Rugby Park, it doesn't come without a cost, and things like that will just be covered by this if we can manage to get through. So it's absolutely massive for the club, and clearly not one that many people will expect us to win, myself included, but it's a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah, Paul, any kind of questions for our guest on the European stage?
Well, it's basically the first question I've got is based on the league and also Europe, because formation wise we've flirted with 3-5-2, and then against Tromsø at home we went back to 4-4-2. Tromsø away, we went back to 4-4-2, and we played a lot better, and we looked a lot more set up and rigid as well. So I just wondered what your thoughts were in that.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I think we probably, even last season, we played about half the games we each. Like it was quite flexible with the two. But I think as long as everyone's fit, like the back four worked better, because you usually have someone like Watson or Lyons in the midfield who can kind of fill into a right back position and make it a 5 anyway when we want to, and it frees up whoever's playing left back to attack a wee bit more. If we play the back three, you're usually asking Armstrong and Kennedy to play as the two wing backs, and it keeps them too far away for the goal sometimes. So I think that's the balance you strike. But it's quite hard because I think the flexibility and the fact that nobody knows what way we're going to set up obviously will affect opponents as well. It makes it hard to predict, which is a good thing. But I would guess for the Copenhagen games, he'll be looking at a back four because I don't think the options defensively to play the back three are kind of good enough in the wider parts of the park. So I would guess that's what we'll do. But I've found you can never really second guess McInnes's team selections are never that predictable.
Yeah, and I guess just also on Europe, I mean, it's a lot of positive talk. But were you disappointed, Craig, with the kind of result against Cercle Bruges? Because it looked like, although a tough tie, potentially a winnable one.
See, going into the tie, I thought like it would be winnable, but I was looking at kind of everything that was coming out for them, and they've got they're kind of seem like an upwardly mobile team at the moment. They've got a link up with Monaco. They've been spending a bit of money. They've got forwards that are supposedly being chased kind of across Europe and stuff like that. And you thought, oh, this would maybe be hard. And then when I watched them in the two games, like I felt they were like a Hearts level team. Like they were a bit better than Killie, but not miles better than Killie. And so yeah, there's a wee bit of a regret that I think, especially in the latter part of the home leg, that we had our chances and we didn't take a lead over to Belgium, and I think that kind of made all the difference. The game out there was quite dull. They scored a goal. It was a bit of a defensive mistake, which has been a bit of a theme this season, and we didn't really do enough to create a clear-cut chance to win it. So it was like frustrating, maybe would be the right word, like in the sense that we had a chance, but at the end of the day, I do think they were better than us. So it's kind of a bit of a, you can be frustrated, but not necessarily annoyed, if that makes sense, because it ultimately, both of these ties we were unseeded in. Tromsø, I think we were better than, and I would have been annoyed if we hadn't beat them. But the Cercle one, I felt they were a slightly better team than us, but at the same time, it wasn't so unachievable to get the win.
Paul, gonna jump in on that?
Yeah, I've been in Bruges as well. I think we set up 3-5-2 again there, and I thought maybe that it would have been better going with other options over there. And we didn't really play our usual pressing game over there, which was quite disappointing for me. So I think we let ourselves down with that one. What did you think about the actual performance in Bruges?
Yeah, it was a wee bit. Not flat's not the right word, but I think we set up to just try and soak up pressure early on, and then once you concede a goal, it's really hard to jump out of that. And yeah, I think there could have been a lot more. Like it felt like we were just still holding on to wait to throw everything at it, and to some extent we did at the end. We chucked attacking players on and stuff, but yeah, it felt like it was trying to nick a goal rather than necessarily doing anything to create a goal, if that makes sense.
And moving on then to league form, obviously a couple of European ties mean that these games have been sandwiched in between, but it starts with a loss against Celtic, a 4-0 demolishing against Celtic, but albeit one that's probably expected at this stage of the season with them up and running and Kilmarnock maybe having tired legs from already having to play 2 games a week. Then followed by a really disappointing result at home to St Johnstone, who before the season started were many people's favourites to go straight down. So were you expecting a little bit more from Kilmarnock? I mean, there haven't been too many transfer signings, but were you expecting a bit more from the season starts, Craig?
I thought we would lose the Celtic game, which we did. We got a result there last season, but I think in amongst everything, it was an easy one to write off and not be too bothered about. And the St Johnstone one is obviously a really disappointing one in the sense that, well, clearly getting beat 3-0 at home by anyone's quite a bad result, but getting beat off a team that's tipped to be bottom. Obviously, we were 1-0 down already. We were like 1-0 down very quickly in that game. But getting someone sent off after 15 minutes, you're kind of always got an uphill struggle. So I think to me, it's easy enough to explain away rather than like it's obviously really disappointing and you want to get a win on the board and stuff. But ultimately, if you offer me to lose 3-0 to St Johnstone but get through the Tromsø tie, that's what I'm taking all day long. I'm not saying that it could have been a win. It could have been 2 wins. I would have rather that. But it was disappointing, the nature of it, because I don't think we played well. But also, if you're playing for 75 minutes with 10 men, are you going to play well? And if you're also trying to chase a game, you're naturally going to be a bit sloppy, because I think you're trying to score a goal and then it's easy to fall apart a bit, which it was. So it was a really like we didn't play like that at all last season. There wasn't a single performance like that last season. I can remember maybe the Aberdeen one in the cup, but so it was a bit disappointing. But I think bigger picture, it's always going to be hard to compete in the league when you're in Europe. So I'm at the moment less annoyed than I think some people were by it, but also can understand why folk don't want to see us get gubbed at home. I fortunately wasn't at that game, so I'd imagine if I'd been at that game, I might have been a little bit more annoyed. So that helped, I suppose.
Just kind of hypothetically on that, then there haven't, as I mentioned before, there haven't been many new faces through the door at Kilmarnock. I think it's just 5, if I'm right. Hypothetically, let's say Kilmarnock go and against all the odds, puts Copenhagen in their place and come through that. There's not much of the window left to then improve the squad for such a busy schedule. Do you think plans are in place for this, or would you have hoped to have a few more faces through the door?
I wasn't expecting much transfer business because we kept most of the squad from last season, so you were expecting just kind of picking away around the edges. If we get into the group stages, I suspect there'll be a bit of money to spend because we'll have made a lot of money from it. And also, I think even if there wasn't, McInnes has got good links for the loan market down south. I would expect, regardless, there'll probably be 1 or 2 more loans come in. If Danny Armstrong leaves, which is probably the only player that looks like he might, then there might be a replacement signed. But I would guess if we're in the group stages, there will be bodies brought in, but I don't know if there will necessarily be that much extra quality brought in, if that makes sense, because I think they'll probably just prefer to take a long-term view of it. But if we don't, there will probably be 1 or 2 extra just for squad depth anyway.
Yeah, of course. And Paul, just kind of on that, are you hoping to see a few more bodies through the door?
Yeah, we just signed the boy Jack Burrows from Coventry, but obviously, as I've said, I like the 4-4-2, but he's a wing back, so I'm not sure if he's going to go the other way with that one. But no, I think obviously they made a big signing with Corey and Daba, and that's took a lot of the budget away. So I can't see us bringing many more people in because of that. But I mean, just looking at the squad, I mean, we've got young players on the bench like Rory Ellis, Aaron Brown, sorry. And I mean, if they're good enough to be in the squad, they should be good enough to rotate into playing, on a Saturday or whatever. So I'd be hopeful maybe to see a couple of them getting blooded, because as the size of Club Kilmarnock are, we're a selling club, so it's important that these guys get a wee chance, I think. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Craig, at all.
I have to say, I live in Glasgow, so I haven't been down to any of the under-18 games that I know a few people have been along to see, so I don't know loads about these guys. I know that Brown's been in the Canada youth squad, so he's probably at least got something about him. And yeah, a couple of other young boys are really highly rated, so whether they think it's time or whether it's too soon for them will come down to the club, but you'd hope they'll be getting football somewhere, and if they get loaned out, then the loans come in to kind of take up their places in the squad. But yeah, I think you need to see a path for these guys into the team. We've obviously seen it with Watson and Wales recently and others in the past. But yeah, there needs to be, if they think they're good enough, they need to see that they might have a chance kind of down the line.
Yeah, of course. And Craig, you touched on it earlier in the St Johnstone game. Obviously, Wright gets sent off. We move on to the League Cup, and Stuart Findlay is sent off, and the game at Fir Park against Motherwell goes to extra time. Kilmarnock end up with probably minutes that they wouldn't have wanted to play if they could have chosen. And ultimately out of the cup at the end of the game. Anyways, was that something you were maybe hoping for, a little cup run? Obviously, semi-finalists last year, go out to Celtic in a little bit of dramatic fashion, maybe a controversial penalty shout at the end. But no cup run in the League Cup anyways this season. Were you expecting a little bit more from that, or do you think tired legs from Thursday night in Norway kind of showed?
I was hoping for a run, but to be honest, when I saw the draw and you go in as a seeded team and you get Motherwell away, it's not really what you're kind of hoping to get. I mean, not that Motherwell are amazing, but they're a decent Premiership team. You're kind of hoping you might get something a bit easier than that, and especially at Fir Park. So I was looking up. I think we've only ever won one cup tie at Fir Park in our entire history, so it wasn't like unexpected. But I was still a bit frustrating with I think the game was there to be won in the sense that we had made 9 changes from the Tromsø game, so it was a very rotated team. And then at the hour mark, and McInnes said he was planning to do this anyway. We made a quintuple sub, which I don't think I've ever seen Kelly do before, but it was 5 subs, which came just after Findlay had been sent off. But I think if that was the plan, then you get to an hour mark at 0-0, and then with 11 men, you bring on 5 of your starters, then maybe that's enough to kind of win you the game. And I think that was hopefully the plan, and I felt that was what was coming. To be honest, I thought the performance, the defensive effort was quite good, considering we had 10 men for the rest of the period, but we obviously stopped really creating much. There weren't really many chances full stop in the game, a couple of half chances, and it's quite a bad goal to lose as well, but obviously perhaps more understandable when you're 108 minutes into a game or whatever it is. But yeah, a bit annoyed to go out. But again, the way the schedule is, it's kind of, I wasn't that surprised that when we got that game. I was hoping, you maybe get Spartans at home and you probably win that, and then you worry about the rest of the competition later on. But as soon as it was like another Premiership team away, I kind of was not quite resigned to going out, but kind of thought it was a decent chance we might.
Yeah, and Paul, did you catch much of the game at Fir Park?
I didn't see any of that game. I haven't been back and looked at any of the highlights either. It's a bit of a concern we'll get another defender sent off and 2 bookings again, but I don't know what you think about this, Craig. They're obviously frustrated in some way, possibly. Do you think that might be that the fact that they're not playing like the same formation all the time, and it's chopping and changing formations at all?
It's hard to know. Like, I think it's ration. To me, it's rashness. Like both the second yellow cards. It's like I could understand it more with Wright's one, and that we were 1-0 down, and I feel like he was maybe wanting to get get the crowd up, make a big tackle or do something. But yeah, with Findlay's one, it was very uncharacteristic. He's usually quite a calm and composed defender, and it was a tackle that he doesn't need to go for, and that he didn't really have much chance of winning the ball. So yeah, I don't know what causes it, because it's been all of a sudden. I was thinking at some point last season, I didn't really remember us having had any red cards, and then I think Robbie Dees got sent off. So Joe Wright got sent off against Rangers after the split, and then Robbie Dees got sent off in the last day of last season, and then we've had 2 this season already. So all of a sudden they're racking up. So I don't know what it is, if it's just kind of coincidence, or we'll hope it's coincidence, and that we don't continue to play with 10 men every week.
Yeah, and I guess kind of on that, coming up now, you've got another difficult tie against Aberdeen, who are looking a lot stronger than they are last season. That you're then followed by Hibs, who are maybe hopeful of being better than last season, but haven't really shown any signs so far. Is there going to be any pressure at the moment on Derek McInnes and Kilmarnock to kind of improve league results? Obviously, it's only 2 games into the season, and there are European games as well. But how many games can you go before 3 points are an absolute must?
A while, I would say. I think we've had pretty bad starts. Even last season, we didn't start all that well. I think everyone would be a lot happier if we won a game, but again, you could give Kelly any given season and say Celtic away and Aberdeen away. Most of the time, even with good Kelly teams, even when Steve Clarke was the manager, you lose those games. And while you don't want to start a season with 3 defeats, it's like, I think we probably will lose to Aberdeen at the weekend because it's in between those 2 fixtures. in terms of pressure, like, will folk get annoyed and worried about the results? Absolutely. But in terms of pressure, in terms of will the players stop believing in themselves, or will the manager be worried about his job? I don't really think so. I think it would take a long time before that would be an issue. But hopefully, yeah, I think what I've found we've found so far with McInnes's teams, even this the season before last when we were pretty poor, we didn't tend to go on very long losing runs. There was always a result that got pulled out the bag somewhere, and hopefully we just get that, and it just a wee kick start. I do believe in this team. I think it's a good team that's out on the park, and I think the players are good. So I kind of think it will get turned around. It's just that ideally it gets turned around a bit quicker so that we are not playing catch up, come October or whatever. The good thing is, like, I think there's maybe only 2 more league games until the international break now, and I think that might be the kind of regrouping time. Hopefully we've maybe taken something from at least one of the next 2, and you're kind of then resetting after that, and either preparing for a European campaign, or if not, then you're just looking at the league and a bit of a rest and kind of more normal fixture schedule.
Yeah, of course, and kind of on that, it has been a little bit, although not many signings, it has been a little bit of chop and change, and Robbie McCrory has come in to presumably take that number 1 jersey, and he is the new number 1. Have you been impressed with him so far, Craig? Because there was a couple of questions about his abilities. I mean, he looked all right in his appearances for Rangers, but couldn't quite nail the starting spot. And then obviously Jack Butland comes in, has a superb season. He's gone elsewhere to find football. And now he's ended up in Ayrshire. Do you think he's good enough to be number 1? Because Kilmarnock have had a good couple of goalkeepers in the last couple of years.
I think he's not far off, or he's about on a par with the 3 guys we've had the last 3 years, I would say, in terms of like Hemmings, Walker, and Dennis, and that they've all been all right goalkeepers, and then obviously got better through the season as they've been playing. And I'm hoping to see the same from McCrory. I think we seem to be doing something right in how they're being coached. Like, they seem to be getting better over time, because I think I wasn't that convinced by Dennis at the start of last season at all. And then by the end of the season, we were obviously quite sad to lose him, and quite similar with Walker in the year before that. To me, McCrory, like, he had an absolute howler in a friendly against Ayr pre-season, but since then I wouldn't say you could look at him for any of the goals he's conceded and say there's been major faults for them. But to me, there's a wee bit of, they're still getting used to him and the defence are still getting used to each other, so there's been a wee bit of indecision at times, and there's a wee bit of sloppiness and stuff like that. So he's been okay so far, which is kind of what I expected. But I think there's a lot of potential in there as a goalkeeper. There's a reason a lot of people have had high hopes for him for a long time, but it's kind of now the time for him to show it. This is his kind of chance to seize that. There's a Scotland squad place up for grabs probably as a goalkeeper. There's a lot of incentive to go and do well. I think his brother obviously really kicked on when he left Rangers, and obviously that was McInnes that was the manager at Aberdeen for him. He'll be hoping for the same. I'm pretty sure it was a big part of him signing, along with him obviously being somewhat local to Ayrshire. I think he'll be a good signing in the long run, but I think we might have a couple of stumbles along the way before that.
Yeah, of course. And Paul, any questions on incomings at Kilmarnock?
No, not really. I mean, just on McCrory as well. I mean, I thought the same. Like, basically, see against there, he get beat by, it was a really long shot, probably over 30 yards, beat him. And then a couple against Tromsø was shots from outside the box as well. So I thought maybe at Rangers or whoever he's been playing with, they've basically been waiting in the defence coming in to make challenges, and they've not done that. So he's not been ready for shots. So I think maybe that, as you said, he'll grow into the season, hopefully, and the more that he gets to know the defence, he'll get better with these things. So, no, but I mean, is there any areas of the pitch that you think particularly we need to be strengthening, Craig?
The main one for me is, if it depends on the Kyle McGuinness situation, the kind of saga with him, because what's missing from the squad is probably a creative midfielder, like someone who can play a bit. Like, there are players, him like Paul Worthy can obviously pass the ball. He's not bad at that. The rest of them can do bits, but I think we need someone who's a bit more attack minded. And either Kyle McGuinness is that guy and he's fit again, and that seems to me, it always seems unlikely that you're going to get long runs out of him, because he started really well last season and then all of a sudden had a couple of injuries, and that was him. And there's been chat about him. He's been training and stuff, but he's not been in a match day squad yet. If he is not going to be able to play, then I think we need someone like that. Apart from that, like other positions of the park, I find it hard because I think the guys who are in there, I might have been tempted to offer one or two less contracts, especially with like Polworth to me and or Donnelly. I don't think we needed both of those guys to stay. I can't remember if Donnelly was already like under contract or not, but as soon as you do that, I think you're limiting what you're really going to bring in, because I think you can look, we've used 20 or 21 players already this season, and you've still got Ndaba, McGuinness, and now the new guy Burrows to come in. So if nobody leaves, that's quite a lot of players. So I would guess there will not be too many more coming in, but if it is, it's probably that attacking midfield, and I think it's most likely going to be a loan from England, to be honest. It'll be someone that McInnes knows. It's not going to be anything left field. He's never done it before, so he's not going to start now.
This season, then, obviously Kilmarnock will be hoping for, as you say, to kind of kick on. And the goals last season came mostly from Marley Watkins, who I think he had 12 in all competition, and your captain Kyle Vassell, who had 10. Are you hoping for more from Vassell? I mean, he was touted as quite a decent player in the English lower leagues, and then obviously a few years later he comes up to Kilmarnock. So are you hoping for a little bit more now? I mean, he's been here a couple of years and he's got the captain's armband, so you're hoping he'll lead by example, but does that mean scoring kind of week in, week out?
He's not a goal scorer. I don't think he'll ever be a goal scorer. He'll score some goals like you described, but I love him. I think he's exactly what, like, if you've got a team in the image that we play in, I think you need someone like him. He's a fighter, he's a battler, he will occupy defenders, he's a pain. Like every time we talk about with my pals that support other teams, every time you come away from a game, they're like, Vassell was an absolute nightmare for us. And I think there's a reason that teams don't want to play against him, don't like playing against him. Obviously, yeah, you would much rather have a player who can do all that and score 25 goals, but with our budget, you're really going to be able to, you're really going to get another Chris Boyd, basically. That's not necessarily something that Kelly are going to be able to have all the time. So I think, you could see better stuff from him. He's 31 now. He's not going to suddenly get magically better. He had a hernia operation, I think, during the summer, which will have hopefully helped his mobility a bit. But he's a very unusually shaped guy. He's very big. He's very muscular. I think he's always going to have these kind of mobility issues, and you have to offset that against the other stuff he offers you. It's always been a team effort with this Kelly team. The goals get spread around, especially between the forwards and the wide players, and I think in the centre halves especially, actually, to be honest. I think that will have to continue. I don't think we're suddenly going to see 15, 20 goals from Vassell. He'll get double figures again, but not much more than that.
You touched on it earlier, and I just want to bring it up again because when I was looking at the goal scorers, Danny Armstrong is pretty high up. You said you're not expecting much movement, many players to go out, but Danny Armstrong is one who has been linked away. I mean, first of all, how much would it take to kind of get him away from Ayrshire, and second of all, how important is he to Kilmarnock going forward? Because he has been linked with moves away. He's been linked with a move to Rangers, a move to England. He's clearly showing all the right attributes and has been a very important player for Kilmarnock last season.
I think that might be one of the problems that he faces, is that I think the amount that Kelly would like, the amount that he's worth to Kelly in terms of like league positions and all that might not be an amount that another team's willing to pay when he's like nearly 27. I don't know what Kelly want, but you would like, there's no point in selling your best player for like 300 or 400 grand. It doesn't make sense. So as soon as you start talking figures above that, like if he didn't have just a year on his contract, you'd be probably looking for £1 million for him. But with the contract situation and the age, it's hard to think a team, unless they're desperate or stupid. I don't mean stupid as in they wouldn't be stupid to sign him, he's brilliant, but like there are other options out there who are 5 years younger who might be a better bet. So I'm unsure what's going to happen with him at the moment. I think he hasn't, in terms of his output, he hasn't done as much so far this season. But I think part of that is also because teams now know that if you stop Danny Armstrong, it's a good way to stop Kelly. And so he gets a lot of he gets quite heavily marked and all the rest of it, which is usually freeing up like someone like Matty Kennedy on the other side, which is the advantage of having two good wingers. But I think he's still quite underrated by much of our support. I think you look back over the years and the amount of goals he's involved in. Yeah, you've got the crosses. Yeah, you've got the goals he scores himself, a lot of penalties, all the rest of it, free kicks that he's creating or scoring goals from. But he's the guy that constantly gets the team up the park. He works really hard, like defensively as well. Especially played wing back a fair bit on that right hand side, and he is also an absolute pain in the ass for other teams to play against. Like again, he's like quite narky. He gets in people's faces. He annoys them. He doesn't mind kind of getting involved in a bit of aggro with people, and that is important for a team, like to have someone who again is just disrupting opponents. And I think that makes it will be impossible for Kelly to replace him. You never say never, but it's really hard to replace someone with our sort of money on the goals and that he scored and created. So you probably have to change how you play, and that becomes difficult. My instinct is if we get through the group stages, he might sign a new contract. We might be able to keep him, and if we don't, it might just be that, to be honest, we just let the contract run down and take our chances with that. Because I don't think, to me, it's not worth taking like 300, 400, 500 grand for him. I don't see the point.
Fair enough. And for you, Paul, how much would it take to price Danny Armstrong away? I mean, I had a similar conversation, albeit not the same, with Adam, who's our Hearts fan, about Lawrence Shankland, and is it worth selling him now for however much a club comes in for, or is he worth more to the club just being around for another year? Is Danny Armstrong worth more to Kilmarnock for one more year than you'd get at the moment?
I would say you'd be looking at about $1 million to take him away. But as Craig said, I mean, his performance levels and all that, they've not been that great this season, but I think he'll build on them, and he'll do much better, just as well as he had last season. But I think probably a team could run now with about 400 grand, and that's not what he's worth, I don't think. So if, as Craig says, we get through the group stages and also his performance levels improve, I think we need to be holding out for like $1 million for him, and if not, just let his contract go. But he's a really important player for us. He creates a lot of chances for the forward, so I think it's something that we need to keep, and obviously keep improving his performance for this season.
Of course. And then I'll just round this up then, because it's been a really good discussion, but I'll round it up. And as always, I will ask for a couple of predictions. Paul, I'm actually going to go to you first, just to set the scene a little bit. I'm going to ask to begin with for a prediction of, will you get through to the Conference League?
I've got to say yes. But it's going to take. It's not going to be like the Eintracht Frankfurt European games and stuff like that we've seen at Kilmarnock in the past. It's going to have to be like a rigid, focused couple of performances, and they're going to have to be really tight in defence to be able to get through these ties. I think it's going to be really difficult, but I think we can do it if we can stay focused.
Yeah, Craig, I'll take the same question to you then. How important is the first leg, though, to this? Because, having something to build on going over there it could be really vital in your chances of making it through to the proper rounds. Yeah,
I think I always think you prefer to have the second leg at home most of the time, especially against like a team that's better than you, because you're hoping maybe that you can sneak away with something. You can basically go. I think this is what we're going to go and do. go out there and basically try and defend for 90 minutes and hit them on the break. And even if you lose 1-0 doing that, that's all right. You'll take that. Whereas obviously, if you're in the circumstance of having the first leg at home, you kind of don't know what to do. You don't know. I think that we kind of got stuck in between that a wee bit with the Tromsø game that I don't think would have happened if we'd been away first. So with that in mind, I think what we need to do in that first leg is just be still in the tie. If we're within one goal, if obviously you want to win, I don't think we'll win in Copenhagen. You never know. If you can draw, which is possible, you're in a good position. And even if you're 1 goal behind, it really gives you something to go and attack. I think them coming to Kilmarnock, we've obviously played in much more hostile atmospheres, but it'll be, you're hoping, like as I stand here, it's absolutely pissing down. It was like that for the Cercle Bruges game. If it's a horrible night, if it's noisy, if there's a big crowd in, and obviously the pitch that they won't necessarily fancy, I think they might have some artificial pitches in Denmark, I'm not sure, but even at that, these are the kind of factors that we'll need to use to our advantage and, get long throws and crosses into the box. We're not going to play a team like that off the park, so we need to just do what we can do. But I think just if we can keep the tie alive with the first leg, that's as much as I think we can do, and just give ourselves a chance to do something.
Of course, and then I'll take it to the other question. I'll put you on the spot. I'm just going to go straight back to you, Craig. There, I'm going to put you on the spot for an exact league finish. I mean, it will be hard if you do get into Europe to maybe replicate the 4th place finish of last year, but I'm sure that the standards are set, and you'll be hoping for something similar. What are you expecting to get?
I think we can finish 5th. I think, to be honest, I think potentially 4th again, but I think there's enough about us that if looking at what's out there from last season, Aberdeen are the team that finished below us that I think have potentially got a bit better. The rest might have got better or might not have done, but I've not seen anything from someone where I'm like, oh man, they're going to clearly be better than us. But obviously, that is relying on Kelly turning it around a wee bit.
Paul, I'll bring the same question to you then. Do you echo that? Is 5th place where you see Kilmarnock ending up?
I think we've probably got enough to get into the top 6. I think we've got Corey and Dabby to come back from injury as yet, and he was he made a big difference to a lot of the performances last season. So I think with him back, we might settle a bit more at the back. And play a bit better. And I think we've got enough to get to the top 6, so definitely.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much to both of you for joining me this evening. And yeah, I'm very grateful for your time and to talk all things Kilmarnock, or all things that we did talk here on The View from the Stands. It was another brilliant episode. Thank you very much to my guests, Paul and Craig from the Terrace, from the Terrace podcast. It is looking forward to a big couple of nights against Copenhagen, and a big European tie, which could mean a lot of money for Kilmarnock. Thank you very much for watching in. If you did enjoy it, please do leave a like on the video. Don't forget to comment where you think Kilmarnock are going to finish this season. And thank you very much for tuning in.